And here we are in English 1010, fall 2021 semester at Tennessee Tech University, Mr. Smith's English class, freshman English. And here we are learning about our second major writing assignment, which is one of the most important writing assignments of the entire semester. It's going to be my favorite assignment to read. I'm going to love doing this assignment with you. I'm going to be really sad when it's over. It doesn't get any better than this assignment. So we are doing important moments and inspired meanings, the memoir in English 1010. A memoir is a long-form, nonfiction autobiography, and the most famous memoirs are book-length memoirs. We are going to be doing one slice, one three-pager, one intimate moment of your whole life's experience. So we are not going to do, I was born on, September 11th, 2001, in New York City while the towers were falling. We're not going to do the entire arc of your life. We are going to focus on a particular moment in your life, which is why it's so important that we made that list class during our free write time this morning to brainstorm and to freestyle and spitball some possible topics. So this 3-page paper, completely manageable, 1,000-word paper that you're going to write is a good story. So you're going to not necessarily rank these events on their significance, because maybe graduation and prom are more significant, but maybe you have better stories about what happened, the Saturday before graduation and prom. Class, are you tracking with me right now? So it's based on whether it's a good story or not necessarily on how it, charts in your all-time greatest hits album. Also, that you have a good memory of it, that you have good recall of it. Some of these events happen when you're very young. Some of you have events that happen when you're very young. You can only write about those events if you have a good recall of them, because you want to be able to create vivid details. Going back to class 1, being specific, we learned and talked about the importance of being specific. If you can't remember it very well, if your memories are vague, you cannot create a specific, detailed story. It is a narrative. Narrative means it's told in the first person. It uses I and me, that you're the main character. It has other main characters. Narrative means it's a story. It means it has a clear beginning, middle, and end. It might have dialogue. It might have other characters. It might have a place that it takes place. McMinnville, Tennessee, Woodbury, Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Key West, Florida, Alaska on a vacation. It has very tactile description and visual detail. That means the reader is going to feel like they were there. In the best papers that you write this assignment, the reader is going to feel as though they were in it with you. This version of the topic that we're teaching also requires a mature reflection at the end of the story, where you help us unpack and understand why we should care as readers, why this is important. So you're going to provide insight for the reader to demonstrate the clear significance of this story to you, the author. You want to make it matter to me, but it doesn't matter so much that it matters to me. What matters is that it matters to you. And also that you feel safe telling it, but you don't feel too safe. You want to be willing to take some risks as well in the telling of this story. So you want to be now looking at the list that you just did in your free write. And as I'm lecturing class, you can be looking at that list right now and looking at those events. Who are the significant people and players in those events? Where did they take place? Where did they happen? The who, what, where, and when. What made it a memorable moment? And here's the ticket for you all, is to decide what made that moment memorable that would make for an interesting story. Again, last football game of senior year, prom, graduation, death of a grandparent. These are all topics that I've read papers about in the past. But the better of the stories sometimes have to do in the storytelling and what you all invest in, how you convey the story. So you can have a very mundane, apparently, boring story. One of the best memoirs from last semester was about lunch bags. It was about lunch bags. That's all it was about. But this student's father was an artist, and this father drew on these lunch bags. It's a great story. I'll dig it up and find it for you and share it with you in a minute. I've got other samples from last year that I will be sharing with you. How is it significant? How well can you convince your reader that this was an important story to tell? But it is a particular event that happened in the past, and it is a true event. This is not fiction. We're not making stuff up. So you want to rummage through resources if you have them. If you have journal entries, social media posts, photographs to help conjure these memories. You don't have to write about an event for which you have these things, but if you have these things, they will help you write a better event. You are not required to have these things to tell a good story, but if you have these things, it may help you tell that story even better. And you might be thinking now, looking at your list, do any of the things on your list qualify as having some of these things? I mentioned the lunch bag art. Well, her dad was a professional artist, and it wasn't just, me with, a Sharpie and some stick figures, right? And so in that, she had, the ability to put those pictures in the paper. Class, did you hear me correctly? I want you to hear this. You can illustrate your memoir if you choose. This is completely optional, though I've already seen some of you did the extra thing with Unit 1, and you put the pictures of you delivering the mail to the mailman in the post University Center ground floor. You can bring this to bear. You can add these extras if you wish to enhance the realism and the power and the appeal to your reader. You want this story to appeal to your reader as though they would read it for pleasure and fun and entertainment purposes. The major purpose of a memoir is to entertain your readers. So you're not doing this for data. This is for substance that would be like, it could be a Netflix, it could be a Hulu. You want to be able to chart this. Yes, I'm talking about embedding them in the document itself or attaching them as separate files. Either of those things would be allowed in this. Usually what happened is the student created the document and then they just added the image as embedded in the document itself, or they added it as attachment when they shared the upload for their final submission. So you want to go through that list of events. Maybe you've picked one of them now. Maybe you need to scribble into a little bit more depth, start filling in some of the blanks. What exactly is the event that makes this story the story? Where did it happen? Who are going to be the other characters? Ideally, you're not going to be the only character in your memoir. You're the main character. It is told in the first person. It does use I and me. But if you could list out who some of the other characters are going to be, that would be excellent. And ask yourself, why would Mr. Smith and my classmates want to read this story? You don't want us to ask later. You never want your reader to ask later, why are you telling me this? Are you seeing where I'm going with this, class? You want to be able to prove the significance in such a way that we're just like, wow, thank you. Wow, thank you. And we don't have to figure it out on our own. These things might be dramatic. There might just be some built-in drama. Like I said, it could be a Netflix. It might be traumatic, meaning there is some pain involved. Suffering is a touchstone to spiritual growth. I mean, that's just, please, I don't want to wish bad on anybody, but trauma and PTSD and trigger warnings and neurodivergence and addiction and relationship problems, breakups, falling in love is a great story, but sometimes breaking up's a better story than falling in love, though, I'm sorry that happened, right? Huge celebrations, vacations. I've read some great vacation memoirs. Tragedies. Hey, look, I hope none of y'all were in trouble. in high school growing up? Because being in trouble is hard. Okay. But if you were like me, a troublemaker, you got some stories to tell. This troublemaking would lend itself to some great storytelling. Remember, we've already talked about this in our free writing last week, to try to use your senses to, what are you hearing, touching, smelling, seeing, being able to use the surrounding, the wonder and joy. Be a child again who is just in awe of when you first got to the Rocky Mountains and you'd never seen the Rocky Mountains before, when you first went to the Smoky Mountains in East Tennessee and you'd never seen the mountains before, the first time you ascended a peak of a mountain that you've never done that, there's just some awe and wonder and joy, and just, you're blown away, right? It's an Instagram, time. Write all that out. Why is it, what makes an Instagram, and what, do you leave off? We want to be very specific in our nouns. We talked about this a lot on that first lecture, but not apple. So not fruit, but apple, but not apple, but golden, delicious, fresh, picked off the tree. Verbs are action words. You know that from whenever you learn the parts of speech in school. A noun is a person, place, or thing. A verb is an action word. But we have verbs that are the verbs to have and the verbs to be that perform no action. And so you want to privilege your action words. Dialogue, I don't know why this is, but dialogue puts the reader in the story almost more than any other thing. This goes back, and it should be right here on the slide. I don't know why it isn't. Maybe it's on the next slide. I can't remember. You'll see in a second. But one of my high school writing teachers told me the best advice. I got the best advice I got about writing in 10th or 11th or 12th grade from my journalism teacher. I worked on the school newspaper, and I am a writer. I'm an author myself. I'm not asking you to do anything that I don't already do on my own. And he said, show me, don't tell me. The first part of the memoir is the showing, and then the reflection is the telling. And so you want to try the best that you can to be involved in showing. And for some reason, dialogue, a conversation between two characters with quote marks around it placed in the story, is going to be one of the best techniques that you can use. And so I want you to be looking for the sample memoirs at the end of this book that you're going to be reading for homework, and looking into the examples of showing dialogue that you're going to be having. We're going to be starting on next Wednesday. We have no class on Monday for the Labor Day holiday. We'll be starting exactly 1 week from today with in person on this call, but we're going to be doing real-time, real workshops with your real writing. And your writing will be the main subject of this class beginning in exactly a week. And people can start claiming those days. I have 3 meetings for 6 consecutive days, depending on how the class roll fluctuates. Occasionally, a person might get left out of these, and so those will be first come, first serve. I will, at the end of today's call and the end of Friday's call and the end of each call, be taking signups for that at the end of the call. And finally, you'll be getting your hang of Google Documents to share with me your final version. We're going to be doing multiple drafts. I'm going to go over those details a little bit more detailed here in a moment, but you share your final version of it with me in a Google document shared with my Andrew at professorandrewsmith.com email address. And your final conference will be a one-on-one with me, probably on this link. Maybe some of you will choose to do a in-person I'll be wearing my mask, and I'll ask you to wear a mask if we do an in-person meeting, but we can do those meetings on this call. Let's get this done. Thank you. That's the basic arc of the presentation. Please read the memoir pages here. I'm going to keep going, but I'm going to stop the recording portion at this interval in this, and I'm going to keep going, and then I'll have time at the end for